I thought I knew what loneliness was. I thought I understood what it meant to lose everything. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for the night. A dying traveler from another world crashed into the cornfield behind my house and showed me that God's plan was so much bigger, so much stranger, and so much more merciful than anything I'd been taught in 47 years of church, pews, and Sunday school. What he revealed to me in those final hours before dawn didn't just change my faith, it shattered it and rebuilt it into something I'm still trying to find words for. And if you stay with me until the end of this story, I promise you'll never look at the night sky or your own suffering the same way again. Before we begin, I want to ask you something. Wherever you are right now, whether you're listening to this in your car, at work, lying in bed unable to sleep, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. And if you've ever felt like God abandoned you, or if you've ever experienced something you couldn't explain, something that made you question everything you thought was real, please subscribe and share your story in the comments. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't just my story. It's a story about all of us, about every soul that's ever felt lost in the dark and wondered if anyone out there was listening. Now let me take you back to September 17th, 2023, 2034 in the morning. The exact time is burned into my memory because I was staring at the clock on my nightstand, doing what I'd done every night for the past 8 months, lying awake in the suffocating silence of my empty house, running through all the things I should have said, should have done, should have been. My name is Thomas Brennan. At the time this happened, I was managing a failing hardware store in Silas County, Missouri, population 3,200 if you count the dogs. I'd inherited the place from my father, along with the house, the 60 acres of nothing much, and a lifetime's worth of expectations I'd never quite lived up to. My wife, Sarah, had left me that January, packed up while I was at work, and took our daughter Emma with her. Emma was 16. The note Sarah left was 3 sentences long. The last one said, "You stopped being present years ago, Tom. We're just making it official." She wasn't wrong. The house sat at the end of a gravel road, surrounded by corn on 3 sides and woods on the 4th. My nearest neighbor was 2 miles east. Cell service was a prayer and a half. It was the kind of place people passed through on their way to somewhere else, and even then, only if they took a wrong turn. That night, it was darker than usual. No moon. The kind of darkness that feels like it has weight, like it's pressing down on you. I'd given up on sleep around midnight and had been lying there ever since, sweating through the sheets even though it was barely 60 degrees outside. The window was open. I could hear the corn rustling in the wind, that papery whisper that sounds almost like voices if you listen long enough. Sometimes I'd imagine it was Sarah and Emma talking in the kitchen, just out of earshot. Sometimes I'd let myself believe they were still there. At 2034, I heard something else. At first, I thought it was a plane, a low, thrumming sound, almost below the threshold of hearing more of a vibration in my chest than an actual noise. It grew louder. The windows started to rattle. The water in the glass on my nightstand began to ripple in concentric circles. Then the sound changed. It became a shriek, metal tearing against air, and I knew something was wrong. I sat up, my heart suddenly hammering, as the sound crescendoed into something I can only describe as reality itself being ripped open. It was so loud, my ears popped. The light bulb in my bedside lamp exploded in a shower of sparks. And then impact. The house shook like God himself had taken it in both hands and rattled it. I was thrown sideways off the bed. Picture frames crashed off the walls. In the kitchen, I heard dishes shattering. The sound of the impact rolled across the landscape like thunder, echoing off into the distance, and then silence. The kind of silence that comes after a bomb goes off. Your ears ringing, your body primed for flight, every instinct screaming danger. I lay there on the bedroom floor for what felt like an eternity but was probably only 30 seconds, my breath coming in short gasps, trying to process what had just happened. A plane crash. Had to be. Something had gone down in my field. I grabbed my jeans from the floor, pulled them on with shaking hands, shoved my feet into my boots without bothering to lace them. My phone was on the dresser, no signal, as usual, but I grabbed it anyway, turned on the flashlight. The stairs creaked under my weight as I descended. Glass crunched under my boots in the kitchen. The back door was standing open, swinging slightly in the breeze, though I was certain I'd locked it before bed. I stepped out onto the porch. The smell hit me first. Ozone, sharp and metallic, like the air after a lightning strike, and something else underneath it. Something that reminded me of heated copper and burning electrical wires. The corn in the backfield was lit up with a faint, pulsing blue glow, like someone had buried stadium lights under the earth. The stalks were bent outward in a perfect circle, radiating from a central point about 200 yards into the field. My hands were shaking. My throat was dry. Every rational part of my brain was telling me to go back inside, lock the door, and wait until morning. Call the sheriff. Call someone. But another part, a part one didn't recognize, hadn't heard from in years, was pulling me forward. Curiosity mixed with something else. A strange sense of inevitability, like I'd been waiting my whole life for this moment without knowing it. I stepped off the porch and started walking toward the glow. The corn stalks were warm as I pushed through them, almost hot to the touch. The blue light intensified with every step, pulsing in a rhythm that reminded me of a heartbeat. Slow, steady. My own heart was trying to punch through my ribs. The ozone smell was stronger now, mixing with smoke, and underneath everything a sound, a faint hum, rising and falling, almost musical. When I broke through the last row of corn, I stopped breathing. The craft was maybe 30 feet across, roughly circular, but the edges seemed to blur and shift when I tried to focus on them, like it was vibrating between dimensions. The surface wasn't metal, not exactly. It looked more like liquid mercury, frozen mid-ripple, reflecting the starlight in ways that hurt to look at. It had buried itself 3 feet into the earth, carving a crater in the soil. Smoke or steam, I couldn't tell which rose from the impact site in thin wisps, and there was a sound coming from inside it. A sound I'll never forget as long as I live. It was breathing. Labored, painful breathing, punctuated by sounds that might have been words in a language I couldn't begin to understand. Something was alive in there. Something was hurt. I should have run. Every fiber of my being was screaming at me to run, to get as far away as possible, to pretend this wasn't happening. But instead, I found myself walking closer. The heat radiating from the craft was intense, like standing too close to a bonfire. Sweat broke out across my forehead and down my back. Hello? My voice came out as a croak. Is someone in there? Can you hear me? The breathing stopped. For 5 heartbeats, there was nothing but the sound of the corn rustling and the faint electrical hum of the craft. Then, a sound that was definitely a voice, weak, distorted, but unmistakably trying to form words. Help. It was barely audible, more breath than sound. Please, help. And that's when I saw it. A seam in the surface of the craft, running vertically like a wound in flesh. It was opening, slowly, the edges pulling back with a sound like tearing fabric. Blue light spilled out, brighter now, and with it came a wave of heat that made me stagger backward. I raised my hand to shield my eyes. Through the gaps in my fingers, I saw movement. A shape emerging from the opening. It was roughly humanoid, but wrong in ways my brain kept trying to correct, and couldn't. Too tall, maybe 7 feet. Too thin, like someone had taken a human form and stretched it vertically. The limbs were too long, the joints bent at angles that shouldn't have been possible. But it was the face that made my knees buckle. It had eyes, two of them, where eyes should be, but they were enormous, taking up nearly half the face, and they glowed with that same blue light from within. The rest of the features were elongated, almost sculptural, like someone had carved the idea of a face out of pale stone and then breathed life into it. No hair, no ears that I could see. But the expression, God help me, the expression was so human. Pain, fear, and something else. Pleading. The being took one step forward and collapsed. It went down hard, hitting the scorched earth with a sound that made me wince. One of its arms was bent at a sickening angle. Dark liquid, not quite blood. It had an iridescent quality. Like oil reflecting light was seeping from multiple wounds across its body. It looked up at me. Those enormous eyes fixed on mine, and I felt something I can't adequately describe. It was like someone had opened a door in my mind and walked through it. Not violating, not invasive, more like recognition. Like meeting someone you've known your entire life, but had somehow forgotten until that exact moment. Please. The voice came not from its mouth, which hadn't moved, but from inside my head, soft and desperate. I'm dying. I don't. There isn't much time. But I need you to listen. I need someone to carry the message. My legs were trembling so badly I thought I'd fall. My rational mind had completely short-circuited. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. But it was. I could smell the burned ozone, feel the heat still radiating from the craft, see the creature's chest rising and falling with each labored breath. "What are you?" I whispered. "Dying." The voice in my head carried a weight of sadness so profound it made my chest ache. "I'm dying. But that's not what matters. What matters is that I found you." Thomas Brennan. 47 years old, hardware store manager, divorced, abandoned by the people you loved most, sleeping alone in a house full of memories, wondering every single day if God has forgotten you. My breath caught. How do you? Because I've been watching. We've all been watching. Humanity has been observed for longer than your species has had language to name us. But we're not what you think we are. We're not invaders. We're not experimenters. We're something else entirely. We're— The voice paused, searching for the right word. Shepherds, witnesses, gardeners of souls. I sank to my knees in the dirt, no longer able to stand. The being's eyes were dimming, the light behind them flickering like a candle in the wind. "I don't understand," I said, and I was crying now, though I couldn't have told you why. "I don't understand any of this." "I know. But you will. I'm going to show you. That's why I'm here. That's why, out of all the places I could have fallen, all the souls I could have found in those final moments, I fell here. To you. Because you're ready to see. Ready to understand what you've spent your entire life feeling in the spaces between prayers. The thing that's been missing. The truth your churches have been circling around for millennia without quite grasping." The being tried to move and gasped a sound of pure agony that didn't come through my ears but resonated directly in my bones. More of that dark, shimmering liquid leaked from its wounds. "You're hurt," I said stupidly. "I need to— I should call someone, get you help." "No." Firm, despite the weakness. "No one else, no hospitals, no governments, no authorities. They wouldn't understand. They'd try to save this body, dissect it, study it. They'd miss the point entirely. The body doesn't matter. It never has. I'm not this form, Thomas. This is just a vessel. I'm the light inside it. And the light remembers everything." He, I found myself thinking. The voice felt somehow masculine, raised one long, trembling hand toward me. The fingers were longer than they should have been, tapering to points, but the gesture was unmistakable. An offering, an invitation. "Take my hand," he said. "Let me show you what we've seen. Let me show you what God's plan really looks like from the outside. And then, when the sun rises and I'm gone, you'll carry it forward. You'll tell them. That's all I ask. Just tell them what you've seen." I stared at that outstretched hand, at the being's dimming eyes, at the impossible situation I'd somehow found myself in. Every instinct was still screaming at me to run, to reject this, to cling to the comfortable boundaries of reality I'd known my entire life. But I'd been clinging to comfortable boundaries for 47 years, and where had it gotten me? Alone. Empty. Going through the motions of a life I'd stopped living years ago. Sarah had been right. I'd stopped being present. I'd been sleepwalking through my own existence, too afraid or too tired to really see, really feel, really be. I reached out and took his hand. The moment our skin made contact, the world disappeared. I can't describe it any other way. One second I was kneeling in the dirt of my cornfield, and the next I was everywhere. Nowhere. Suspended in a vast darkness that wasn't empty but full. Full of light, full of sound, full of an overwhelming presence that I can only call love, though that word falls so short it's almost offensive to use it. I was no longer Thomas Brennan. Or rather, I was Thomas Brennan and everything else simultaneously. I could feel the rotation of the earth beneath me, the solar wind streaming past, the moon's gravity pulling at the oceans, the slow burn of fusion at the heart of the sun. I could feel every heartbeat of every creature on the planet. The deer in the woods behind my house, the bacteria in the soil, the birds sleeping in the trees, the insects chirping in the darkness. All of it connected. All of it part of one vast breathing organism. And in the center of it all, holding it together like the scaffold of a building too immense to comprehend, was something else. Someone else. A presence so vast and so intimate at the same time that calling it God seemed both exactly right and hopelessly inadequate. The being's voice filled the space, no longer weak but clear and resonant. "This is what we see. This is what we've always seen. The humans call us aliens, extraterrestrials, visitors from beyond. They don't understand. We're not from beyond. We're from within. We're part of the same creation, the same breath, the same source. We're just older. We've been aware longer, and we've been given a task." The darkness shifted, and suddenly I was somewhere else. I was looking down at Earth from orbit, seeing it as a blue-green marble suspended in black velvet, wrapped in swirls of white cloud. And I wasn't alone. There were others, thousands of them, maybe millions beings of light in forms I couldn't begin to describe, stationed throughout the solar system, throughout the galaxy, in a vast network of watchers and guardians. "We maintain the garden," the voice explained. "We tend the boundaries between physical and spiritual. We watch over the species that are on the verge of awakening, of making the transition from animals acting on instinct to souls acting with intention. Humanity is, you're in the middle of that transition now, have been for thousands of your years. It's a dangerous time, a time of great becoming or great destruction." I watched as time accelerated below me. I saw the sweep of human history from above, the rise and fall of civilizations, the spread of humanity across the continents, the flowering of art and science and philosophy, and threaded through it all, invisible to the people living through it, I saw the others, the watchers, appearing in moments of crisis or transition. In ancient Sumer, in Egypt, in the deserts of Israel, in the forests of the Americas, in the mountains of Tibet, always in forms that the people of that time could understand, could relate to. Angels, demons, gods, spirits, dragons, visitors from the sky. "We've always been there," the voice said softly. "In every age, wearing different faces, speaking different languages, but always carrying the same message. You are not alone. You are seen. You are loved. There is more." Keep going. Keep growing. Keep reaching upward. The scene shifted again, and now I was standing in a specific moment in history, though I couldn't tell you when or where. A desert at night. A figure kneeling in prayer, surrounded by his disciples, wrestling with the knowledge of what was coming. And above him, invisible to mortal eyes, I saw them, the Watchers, dozens of them bearing witness, holding space, their light mingling with the light that blazed from the praying figure like a star. He knew, the voice said, and there was something like awe in it. You're Christ. He understood what most never do, that the kingdom of heaven isn't some distant place you go when you die. It's here, now, interpenetrating every moment, every atom. It's the reality underneath reality, the source code of existence. And he came to show you that you could access it, that you were meant to access it, that the wall between human and divine was thinner than a thought. I was crying again, silent tears streaming down a face I no longer had. But we didn't understand. We made him into something else. We built churches and wrote creeds and drew lines between who was in and who was out. Yes, there was no judgment in the voice, only sadness. You took the key and turned it into a lock. You took the bridge and burned it behind you. But that's part of the process, too. Part of growing up. Children break things before they learn to build. Humanity is still young, still learning. The vision shifted once more, and I saw Earth from space again, but this time different. Glowing. Every human on the planet was a point of light, some bright, some dim, some flickering, but all connected by threads of energy that wove through the atmosphere like a luminous web, and I could see the pain in it. The places where the web was torn, the places where the light had been choked out by fear, by greed, by the small, terrible decisions that cut people off from each other and from the source. But I could also see the healing. The places where someone had chosen love over fear, forgiveness over resentment, presence over absence. Every small act of kindness sent ripples through the web, strengthening it, brightening it. Every moment of genuine connection, parent to child, friend to friend, stranger to stranger, wove the threads tighter. This is God's plan, the voice said, and now it was growing weaker again. The vision beginning to fade at the edges. Not a plan where everything is controlled and predetermined. Not a plan where humans are puppets dancing on strings. But a plan where souls are given freedom to choose, to grow, to create. A garden where the gardeners plant seeds but the plants decide how to bloom. Do you understand? You've spent your life thinking God abandoned you because things didn't go the way you wanted. But God never left. You just stopped looking in the right places. The darkness was returning, rushing back in. I felt myself being pulled back toward my body, back toward the cornfield and the dying being and the reality I'd left behind. Wait, I called out. I don't. I'm not ready. I still don't understand. You understand more than you think, the voice said, and it was fading now, growing distant. You understand that love is the only thing that lasts. That connection is the only thing that matters. That every choice to be present, to really see another soul, is a choice to participate in the divine. That's enough. That's everything. I slammed back into my body with a gasp, like surfacing from deep water. I was still kneeling in the dirt, still holding the being's hand, but everything had changed. The night looked different. The air tasted different. I could feel the life humming in the soil beneath me, sense the vast network of roots from the corn connecting underground, sharing nutrients, sharing information. I was still me, still Thomas Brennan, but the walls I'd built around myself were gone. I was connected again, part of the web. The being's eyes were barely glowing now, the light almost extinguished. But there was peace in that face, unmistakable peace. Thank you, I whispered. I don't even know your name, but thank you. I don't have a name the way you understand it, he said, and his mental voice was barely a whisper now. But you can call me witness. That's what I've always been. That's what we all are. Witnesses to the unfolding, witnesses to the becoming. Are you afraid? I asked. Of dying? No. And somehow, impossibly, I felt him smile. This body is dying, but I'm not. I'm going back to the source, back to the light. And from there, I'll still be able to watch, still be able to witness, just from the other side. Death isn't an ending, Thomas. It's a transition, another doorway. You've been through so many already without realizing it. Every time you've changed your mind about who you are, who you want to be, you've died and been reborn in the same body. Physical death is just the final one, the one that takes you home. I struggled for words. I wish I could have known all this before. Before Sarah left. Before I lost Emma. Maybe I could have. Stop. Gentle but firm. Stop doing that. Stop thinking that understanding equals prevention. Some things need to fall apart so new things can grow. Your marriage ended because it needed to end, because both of you needed to become different people. Your daughter left because she needed to learn who she is outside of your shadow. These aren't failures. They're transformations. And now you get to choose who you become in response to them. That's the gift. Not that pain doesn't happen, but that you get to decide what it makes you. The light was almost gone now. I could barely see his eyes anymore. What do I do? I asked desperately. How do I tell people about this? They'll think I'm crazy. Some will. Many will. Let them. Your job isn't to convince everyone. Your job is to plant seeds, to tell the truth of what you experienced and let it land where it lands. Some seeds take root immediately. Some take years. Some take generations. Trust the process. Trust that the ones who need to hear will hear. I'm scared, I admitted. I'm scared of going back to being alone. You're not alone. You've never been alone. You're part of the web now. You can feel it, can't you? Every soul around you, every living thing. You're connected. You just have to remember. Pay attention. Stay present. That's the whole secret, Thomas. Just be here. Be really, truly here, and the loneliness dissolves. The last light went out of his eyes. I felt the moment his consciousness lift. Felt it rise up out of the body like heat rising from warm earth. For just a second, I could still sense him, a presence hovering above us both, vast and joyful and completely free. And then he was gone, dissolved back into the source, back into the light that holds everything together. I sat there in the dark, still holding his hand, and wept. Not from sadness, or not only from sadness, but from overwhelming gratitude. Gratitude that he'd found me, that I'd been given this impossible gift, that the universe was so much stranger and more beautiful than I'd ever imagined. The body began to dissolve. I'm not exaggerating or speaking metaphorically. As I watched, it began to break apart into streams of light, like sand flowing through fingers, drifting up into the night air and dissipating. Within minutes, there was nothing left but a faint shimmer on the ground where he'd fallen. The craft was doing the same thing, its edges blurring and breaking apart, the pieces floating away like embers from a fire. By the time the first hint of dawn touched the eastern horizon, there was no physical evidence that any of it had happened. The crater was still there, and the bent corn, but the being and his vessel were gone. Returned to energy. Returned to light. I walked back to the house as the sky turned from black to deep blue to pale gold. The birds were beginning to sing. The world was waking up, and I was waking up with it, seeing it clearly for the first time in decades. Inside, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at my phone. Still no signal. But it didn't matter. I didn't need to call anyone. I didn't need to report anything. What would I even say? That I'd met an alien? That he'd shown me God's plan? That everything we think we know about life and death and meaning is both right and wrong simultaneously? Instead, I opened my laptop and started writing. I wrote for 6 hours straight, trying to capture everything I'd seen, everything I'd felt, everything I now understood. Not because I thought I could convince anyone, but because I had to. Because carrying this knowledge alone would have crushed me. Because seed planting starts with the first handful of soil turned. When I finally stopped, my hands were shaking from exhaustion and caffeine and the sheer emotional weight of it all. I saved the document and closed the laptop. Then I walked outside and looked up at the sky, pale blue and infinite. "Thank you," I said out loud, to witness, to God, to the universe, to whatever was listening. "Thank you for remembering me." And I swear I felt something respond. Not words, not a voice, just a presence, a warmth, a sense of being held. The weeks that followed were strange. I didn't tell anyone at first. I went to work at the hardware store, helped customers find the right size bolt or the right shade of paint, came home to my empty house. But I wasn't sleepwalking anymore. I was present. I noticed things I'd been blind to for years. The way the light fell through the windows in the afternoon, the pattern of cracks in the sidewalk, the woman who came in every Tuesday looking tired and defeated, and how a simple kind word would make her shoulders relax just a little. I started reaching out to people, not in big dramatic ways, just small gestures. I called Emma and told her I loved her, that I was proud of her, that she didn't owe me anything. I called Sarah and apologized for all the years I'd been physically present but emotionally absent. I didn't try to get them back. I just wanted them to know they'd been seen. Emma called me back a week later. We talked for 3 hours. She cried. I cried. We're planning a visit next month. Sarah sent me a text. "Thank you. That means more than you know. I hope you're finding peace." I am. Not happiness, not yet. That might take longer. But peace. The kind that comes from knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. I also started talking about what happened that night. Carefully at first, obliquely testing the waters. I told the story to a few people I trusted. Some looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Some nodded politely and changed the subject. But a precious few, leaned in closer. Their eyes lit up. "Something like that happened to me once," they'd say. Or, "I've always felt like there was more, but I didn't know how to talk about it." Those conversations changed everything. Because I realized witness was right. I'm not trying to convince everyone. I'm just planting seeds, and the ones who are ready will recognize the truth when they hear it. 3 months after the crash, I was locking up the hardware store when a man I'd never seen before walked up to me. He was old, maybe 70, with skin weathered by sun and time. He looked at me for a long moment, and I had the strangest feeling that he was seeing through me, seeing something deeper. "You met one of them," he said. It wasn't a question. I froze. "What?" "One of the watchers, the witnesses. I can see it in you. The light, the connection. It changes you, doesn't it? Once you've seen what they can show you, you can't unsee it." "How do you know?" I whispered. He smiled, sad and knowing, because I met one too, 43 years ago in a field in Oregon, dying just like yours. Showed me the web, showed me how it all fits together. I've spent my whole life since then trying to live up to what I learned that night. We talked for 2 hours, standing outside that hardware store. He told me his story. I told him mine. And when we finally parted ways, I felt less alone than I had in years. Because I'd found another seed planter, another witness to the impossible. I've met 7 others since then. 7 people who've had encounters with the Watchers, though each story is different. Some saw beings, some saw lights, Some had visions or dreams or moments of impossible knowing, but the message was always the same underneath. You are connected. You are loved. There is more. Keep going. And that's why I'm telling you this now. That's why I'm sharing this story with the world, knowing full well that some of you will think I'm delusional or attention-seeking or just plain crazy. I'm telling you because somewhere out there, someone needs to hear it. Someone is lying awake at 2034 in the morning, feeling abandoned and alone and wondering if any of this matters. Someone is going through the motions of a life they stopped living years ago. Someone is on the edge of giving up. This is for you. You are not alone. You have never been alone. Right now, in this moment, you are connected to every other soul on this planet through threads of light and love that are more real than the ground beneath your feet. The presence you sometimes feel in the quiet moments, that's not your imagination. That's the source. That's God, or the universe, or whatever name makes sense to you. It's there. It's always been there. You just have to stop long enough to notice. And the pain you're carrying, the grief, the loss, the regret, the feeling that you failed, somehow that's not evidence that God has abandoned you. That's evidence that you're alive, that you're feeling, that you're in the middle of becoming something new. The caterpillar doesn't know it's going to be a butterfly. It just knows the old form is dissolving, and it's terrifying. But the dissolution is necessary. The falling apart is part of the plan. God's plan isn't a blueprint where everything is mapped out in advance. It's a garden. A vast, wild, chaotic garden where souls are planted and given the freedom to grow in their own direction, at their own pace. Some bloom early, some bloom late. Some bloom in ways no one expected. But all of it is part of the design. The weeds and the roses, the droughts and the floods, the deaths and the rebirths. Your job isn't to have it all figured out. Your job isn't to be perfect or to convince everyone or to save the world single-handedly. Your job is so much simpler and so much harder. Just be present. Be here. Really look at the people around you. Really listen. Every moment of genuine connection, every choice to stay open instead of closing down, every small act of kindness or courage, that's you participating in the divine. That's you weaving the web tighter. That's you doing exactly what you were put here to do. The being who crashed in my backyard was dying, but he wasn't afraid, because he knew that death is just a doorway, that the light inside him would continue, that nothing real is ever lost, and the same is true for you. Whatever you've lost, people, dreams, versions of yourself, it's not gone. It's transformed, changed into something new. Energy doesn't disappear, it just changes form. Love doesn't end, it just finds new expressions. You don't stop being part of the web when you die. You just become part of it in a different way. This is what Witness wanted me to understand. This is what he spent his last hours showing me. And now I'm passing it on to you, hoping that it lands where it needs to land. I still live alone in that house at the end of the gravel road. I still manage the hardware store. I still have nights when the silence feels heavy and the loneliness tries to creep back in. But I also have mornings when I walk outside and feel the sun on my face and really know that I'm held, that I'm seen, that I'm part of something vast and beautiful and unfolding. Last week I drove out to the field where the craft came down. The corn has been harvested now, the ground turned over for winter. There's no sign of what happened that September night. No crater, no bent stalks, no physical evidence at all. But I stood there at sunset, and I could still feel it. The residue of that encounter. The place where the veil between worlds grew thin for just a moment and let something through. And as I stood there watching the sky turn from blue to gold to deep violet, I heard his voice one more time, faint as a whisper, like an echo from very far away. Keep planting seeds, Thomas. Keep being present. You're doing exactly what you need to do. I don't know if that was really him or just my memory of him or some part of my own consciousness that sounds like him now. Maybe there's no difference. Maybe we carry the voices of everyone who's ever loved us, everyone who's ever shown us something true. Maybe that's how the web works. We become part of each other, and the boundaries between souls are more permeable than we think. All I know is this. I'm not the same person I was before that night. I've been changed at a fundamental level. The old Thomas died in that cornfield, and someone new was born. Someone more awake, someone more connected. Someone who understands that the most radical, revolutionary thing you can do in a world that's constantly trying to make you numb and distracted and disconnected is simply to pay attention, to be here, to see. So, that's what I'm doing. One day at a time. One moment at a time. Some days I'm good at it. Some days I slip back into old patterns and find myself sleepwalking again. But then I remember. I feel the web. I look up at the stars and know that somewhere out there, beings of light are watching, bearing witness, tending the garden. And I'm part of that work now. We all are, whether we know it or not. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. Thank you for being open enough to hear a story that probably sounds impossible. Maybe you believe me. Maybe you don't. That's okay. I'm not here to convince you. I'm just here to plant a seed. But if you're lying awake at 2034 in the morning, feeling alone and wondering if any of this matters, this is your sign. This is the universe reaching out through a story about a crashed alien and a hardware store manager to tell you, yes, it matters. You matter. Every choice you make matters. Every moment of presence matters. You are seen. You are loved. You are not alone. The watchers are out there tending the boundaries, bearing witness to your becoming, and so is God. Not some distant judge keeping score, but the living presence that holds the web together, that breathes life into every atom, that whispers through every moment of genuine connection. Keep going. Keep growing. Keep reaching upward. You're doing better than you think. And when I look at the stars now, I still hear his voice. Not in words, but in the space between words. In the silence that's not empty but full. In the dark that's not absence but presence. In the loneliness that's actually solitude, and the solitude that's actually communion with everything that is. Thank you, witness. Thank you for crashing in my backyard. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for showing me that God's plan is wilder and stranger and more merciful than I ever imagined. And to whoever's listening to this, wherever you are, thank you for being part of the web. Thank you for being exactly who you are, exactly where you are. You're doing important work just by existing, just by feeling, just by continuing to show up day after day. The garden needs you. We all need you. Keep going. Keep being present. Keep planting seeds. And when the time comes for you to meet your own witness, whether it's a being from the stars or a stranger on the street, or a moment of sudden clarity in the middle of an ordinary day, I hope you're brave enough to take their hand. I hope you're open enough to see what they show you. And I hope you're strong enough to carry the message forward, to become a seed planter yourself. Because that's how the garden grows, one witness at a time, one encounter at a time, one moment of presence at a time. The stars are waiting. The web is humming. The source is calling. Are you listening?